right, let's talk about Halo Infinite. I've been playing a review copy for a couple of days, and just so you know how this goes down is that on the Game Ranks YouTube channel, I make the before you buy. Then I come over here and kind of give a little additional context to a lot of things, more thoughts and feelings and vibes and just things I didn't have time to dive into specifically with that video. So Halo Infinite is a tricky one. I had quite a journey reviewing it, really, because it starts off awesome. The intro, whole opening act is really cool. Then you get introduced to the open world and it's a little weird, and then the story picks up and things get interesting again. And then once you figure out what they were really doing with this game, it's pretty cool. Just so you know, I'm not going to talk spoilers. I'm going to avoid spoilers. I am going to talk about the story, but I'm not going to go into any spoilers, so you can be totally safe. But I don't think I'm quite as like head over heels for the game as some other reviewers are, or at least it seems to be out there, this early consensus. There's a couple of things that really bummed me out. I do still, on the other hand, think that this is probably 343's best. Now, that is extremely subjective, of course. I have played every single Halo from the beginning. I don't consider myself like a Halo bro or anything like that with the multiplayer. I always just found the campaign smart and cool and creative. But then when 343 took over for Bungie, it started to slowly lose me. 4 was all right. It did some cool things. 5, I just outright didn't like the campaign. And now with this, it's almost like, you know, it is like a back to basics type of thing. They've been saying that, they've been playing at you with that from the original trailer to just the way the world looks, the art style and everything. But it doesn't feel like it's like gimmicky. It doesn't feel like it's just marketing. Like it actually commits to it the whole way, specifically with how the whole sandbox playground is a main point of the game. But like I said in the other video, I don't hate it. I'm very tired of open world games, especially when they just feel bloated and padded for no reason. This open world is pretty big, but there's not a lot to do in it. And that's not a bad thing. There are things to discover. There are some bases to conquer. But really what it is just a sandbox world to mess around and do Halo stuff in. And it's the game really being confident in how polished its game mechanics are and how solid the gameplay is, especially if you've been playing the free-to-play multiplayer. Like, you know it plays well. So they got all that, and they just throw you into one giant silent cartographer level. And it does work. Unfortunately, that's like the story starts to take a back seat here and there with stuff like that, but it's got some really freaking cool moments. So like there are these like targets, these high value targets that are out in the environment, and I found myself really digging taking those out because there's just a little bit more to it, and it's just interesting to have this Halo where you can kind of choose to like, I wouldn't say plan or strategize, but you can think a little bit and you can take different approaches to things. There's a general freedom that is legit refreshing in a world and a sandbox that just feels like old school Halo. So, you know what I mean? It manages to feel fresh still. So, for example, a high value target guy, it's like a named boss just roaming around the open world, right? He's in this little special spot, hold out. I looked down at him on a cliff. I saw him. I saw what was going on with turrets and stuff, and I realized what I wanted to do. So I backtracked, kind of just took out some little guys fucking around here in the overworld, got a sniper rifle that I was looking for, and picked up a Warthog with rockets, found a crew, and then rolled up to that same cliff that I was at, sniped some of the turrets and the other snipers, hopped in the Jeep, and rolled down into it with their defenses softened. That is cool. That is very cool for Halo, for me to be able to do something like that. And it felt really good and satisfying to do. And I think that's where people are gonna really have the most fun with the game. Where I was really disappointed with the game were the interior sections. Some of the more story-based linear missions where you go inside areas, they were really bland and really plain and ultra repetitive. And it started to really wear down my patience towards the end of the game and kind of hurt the experience a little bit. But those moment-to-moment things and just the way it handles progression, where it's not just like a ton of shit thrown at you, it's just like little tiny skill trees, little collectibles, like nothing crazy, while just letting the gameplay take the front and center seat. It works. Also, I feel like it's kind of ballsy to come out with a new Halo game and really pare back to just kind of like the old Covenant enemy types. Granted, this is the Banished, this faction, which and this goes for previous Halo games, but the Banished like come off like the First Order from Star Wars, where it's like, it's them, they're bad again, but they're like a different faction that they splintered off, but they're the same. Why? I don't know. Fuck you. Just, they're bad. Obviously, there's more, like Halo, there's more lore to it, but if you're taking it at face value with the games, that's what it's like. But for them to just give you those simple enemy types, nothing crazy, just a couple new little variations, have no fillers really with the weapons, like they're all just solid and simple, and even the alien weapons don't suck this time around. I found myself wanting to use everything. Like, to just go back to that, it's bold. I think a lot of people might really like this open world new shenanigan stuff. Some people might think like, no, this isn't enough new for me. I can really see it being both ways, and a lot of reviews are really, really positive, but I can still see this game end up being divisive for fans. Also, side note, the grunts this time around, like they always do these blood-curdling screams. They fear the Master Chief, and sometimes you kill him and they go, ah! But there is one specific soundbite in this game of the grunts screaming horrifically. Like, it haunts my soul. You feel bad. They feel like a screaming baby. Ugh. Still, when you're in like a really challenging encounter and shit is going nuts, you're throwing explosives, which feels really satisfying, to the grappling hook, which I've talked about this in a lot of videos, just the way the momentum works, the perfect Halo balancing with it. It doesn't screw anything up, but that little tiny bit of momentum and slide and bounciness almost gives me like Tribes vibes, which I really appreciate, but it still feels Halo here. I just love it. Like, when this thing is firing on all cylinders and like shit's exploding and you're really challenged, you don't feel like it's just a rehash of old games. You feel like it's like a stepped up version. It's like they really cracked the Halo code once again, with the same puzzle pieces, you know what I mean? It was also like a bold move. It was like a big dick move, you know, and so many big AAA games right now are trying to just like go bigger and crazier and better and like just ray traced everything and an open world with a million things, or, you know, constant new things. Halo really just sat on the gameplay. I wish there was more story, but the story's really good. It's again, without spoiling anything, it's simple. It keeps seemingly wanting to get complicated with how it throws out some words and, you know, like every single thing in Halo, every faction, you know, Banished, Covenant, Forerunners, like they all start to just jumble together after a while, but it keeps paring it down and just focusing on the characters. This is a simple ass story with not a lot going on. There's the villains, which I think are pretty cool. There's like the villains and then like the sidekicks of the villains. I think it's pretty cool. Then there's Chief, this new Cortana. I've been calling her Cortana Jr. and the pilot. You know, basically what you got set up for in the trailer is the whole game. And it's actually pretty cool. It's not like this whole like, oh shit, the world is gonna end thing. It is just a simple story, and how it tackles Chief is really awesome. It's my favorite part of the entire game. It's super simple, but it's interesting how they tackled the Master Chief. And again, without spoiling anything, it just kind of takes a look at the fact, like, how do you dive into a character who isn't a character? You know, how do you have these other characters interact with him when he is so straightforward and so hero business and only hero business? It manages to work really well without changing Master Chief. Master Chief doesn't suddenly open up and start crying or anything like that. He still only has a couple of lines. But how they managed to still get something out of that, like how they managed to draw blood from a stone, I really like. And that is thanks to the supporting characters, the pilot and this new Cortana, and even how they justify her existence and how they do everything really, really works. You do have to have played the previous games, but you know, it works. And where it goes, ultimately, I really enjoyed, and I was also disappointed because I thought Halo Infinite, with the title being Infinite and just with how it was set up, I thought it was gonna be like this crazy end-all be-all Halo, and it really isn't. It feels like a kickoff to like a new series of Halo games. This feels like the first one in this new direction. It really feels like it's the first one in 343 finally figuring it out. You know, and that's, for me personally, someone who like wasn't super into their previous games. So it kind of felt like it ended kind of quickly with me going, oh, wait. Like, it was starting to get cool, that's it. But it also made me be like, oh, okay, this is where it's going. Now they figured out Halo, seemingly from both like really the humbled down gameplay department to the story, really focusing on characters and not really trying to throw too much crazy sci-fi shit at you, which Halo's always done, but I think Bungie really always did it way better than 343. Here it sprinkles it and it develops, and you know there's room to breathe for everything, and that's refreshing to say, you know. So I'm happy with it. I don't think it's like my #1 game of the year or anything, because some of the interior stuff and like, you know, not enough story and too much stuff just hidden in audio logs really bothers me. But still, like, I gotta say, for me, the multiplayer, which has its own issues that need to be worked out, and this campaign, I still think it's a solid Halo package. And overall, I can tell I really like it way more than Halo 5 and probably more than 4. I really, really hope that 343 can keep this energy. It took them a while. This game has been worked on for quite a while. It took them a while to really figure this out, get this vibe going. So keep it going. I can't wait to see what's next. And I haven't said that in quite a few years as a Halo person. But that's just me, kids. Had some words to say about Halo. I definitely wanted to ramble about it. So I'm putting this out a little bit before release, but I want to know your expectations, what you think of the multiplayer, and let's see how this goes once everybody gets their hands on it. Thank you for coming around here and just listening to me blah, 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 about video games. I have a lot more videos planned for the remainder of the year. There's so much shit going on, from like Spider-Man to other things that like my brain can only fit Spider-Man right now, but there are other things. Oh, the Matrix. Yeah, there's a lot. So keep your eyes peeled. Thank you for being here. Clicking the like button does help me. Supporting me on YouTube memberships or Patreon also helps me. Thank you. But just watching helps me. Thank you all for being here. I'm Jake Baldino. Subscribe because video games. Pizza's on me.